Hello. Tonight's topic on Whispers of the Soul is how to graze, how to age gracefully. And if you're grazing, I guess you want to graze gracefully. Um, but aging gracefully while caring for our elders. So if you are on this planet and you are sucking air, you are aging. So we're going to explore how to make that worth your while. I know for myself as a younger person, it never even crossed my mind. I don't know why. It's not like I didn't know math, each year you get 1 year older, but it never really sat on me that I was going to age. And people would always say, oh, when you hit your 40s, this happens. When you hit your 50s, this happens. When you hit your 60s, this happens. But none of that stuff ever happened to me. So I still really kind of don't, I'm still not kind of with it. But what has gotten me with it, or thinking about it anyway, is my parents. They are clearly showing signs of aging, and so that's become part of my world, is how to care for them, what's the best way to interact with them. I'm not at their beck and call like every second of every day. I don't carry a phone around with me or a beeper or anything, but I am at their beck and call if they need something. So, and they're far away from me, which complicates things even further. And they're not in the same, they're no longer married, and they're not even in the same state. So, to make it more special. So, for me, life has always been about, and this is since I was a kid, has always been about, I am here. If I am not doing something to make this world a better place, then there's really no point for me to be here. Like, why else would I be here? Makes no sense. So I have focused on that in my life. And now that I'm seeing, the the first glimmer of the light at the end of the tunnel, of this journey, and I have started to embrace, imbibe, absorb, and somehow manage to kind of regurgitate some wisdom. I feel like, as I think about it, that kind of is it. That is the aging. That you're learning things, and all the things that you've had experience for in your life brings you some wisdom, which you can now use and share with others. And that's why across the globe, cultures, traditional cultures, not this money-grabbing materialistic culture that many of us live in, but traditional cultures always revered elders because they had a lot to share. So there's the wisdom side of it, and the sharing in your community. There's the part about how do you take care of yourself, and maybe you're starting to notice things, that maybe you have a creak in your knees, or have a hard time getting up in the morning, or a hard time going to sleep, or digestive issues, all kinds of stuff, which sadly, all kinds of health issues are spiraling down to younger and younger people than they used to be traditionally. So there's our bodies that we need to take care of. You have no control over the quantity of your years. You have no control over when you're going to go. Even if you're thinking about like taking care of it yourself, still, if Creator doesn't want you to go, you're not going. So you don't have control over how long you're going to be here, the quantity, but you do have control over the quality. And so if you're having issues, that are troubling you, and you're at the drive-through line at McDonald's, you might want to start thinking about making some changes. not only in what you eat, but in your attitude and how you face your day and face the world and face others and face yourself. Like when you're looking in the mirror, are you liking what you're seeing? And even if and I'm not talking about outer beauty, I'm talking about inner beauty. Do you see someone who has struggled along, who has fallen down and picked themselves back up again, someone who has helped other people, who feels good about themselves, who not necessarily feels like you solved the world's problems, but that you made a difference in some way or another. So when I was saying my prayer before I start, I always start with a prayer, or I say a prayer before we start, I should say. They were talking about aging isn't like that the system, that the way it works, the way it's set up here is that we age and our bodies kind of, give out. That it's not designed that way out of spite or meanness or anything, but is part of a process of bringing us closer to who we are in reality, in spiritual reality, and spirit is where we're going. So kind of helps if you know a little bit of where you're going, how to speak the language at least. Um, and that a lot of these aging issues that we're having, health issues that we're having, they are not part of the design that has been very much man-made. So we have to, you and I living here in this day, we have to kind of take that into account, factor that into our understanding, our frustration, our fears. Take into account that a lot of this is not how it's supposed to be. So if you have elders that you're caring for, whether they're your parents or your neighbors or your in-laws or people in your community, in your church, in your tribe, in your anything, um, how are you doing that? Are you showing respect for them? Are you helping them? I went to a conference a couple months ago, it was in June, and for some reason I really like to help out with stuff. So I went to the kitchen. I'm like, hey, can I do anything? They're like, no, no, not really. We got it covered. They had a lot of volunteers. Okay. So I went and I was meandering around and somebody came out a little while later and found me. They're like, hey, can you still help? Would you still want to help? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So they're like, well, we need another person to serve. So it was like people would form a line and there was this big window and we're in the kitchen side with this open window, and then they had their choices of dishes and we would put it onto their plate, which they would hand to us, and then they go on their way. So there was this young man, let's just say he was in the legitimate quad category. And before we started, I said, hey, do you guys mind if I enforce the elders issue? And this young man is like really full of authority and really firmly, he's like, yes. And he walked away. I just loved how he was like, thank you. I mean, he didn't say thank you, but I could tell in the way that he was like, oh, yes. So, because there's all these young people standing at the front of the line waiting for us to for the kitchen bell to go, or however, whenever it was going to start. And so again, I'm trying to be nice, and I think I did an okay job. I'm not always known for my tact. I asked them to wait. I asked them to please wait until the elders had come up, and then it would be their turn. But then they're like clumping up at the front, and they're like, the elders are not like able to come through. So then I had to talk to them again. Hey, would you guys, mind backing up so they can actually get to us and so that we can actually feed them? Yeah. So that worked out okay. And then I was done. The line kind of Oh, no. This young man, he was done with whatever he was doing. He was one of the chefs, I think. And he came over and said, and basically fired me. He's like, "Okay, I'm going to take over. You can go. You can get your food." So I go out there and I see all these older people at the back of the line, because that first group of young people that I had talked to, they had already gone through, but now more people had come in, and now there's a bunch of elders at the end of the line. And so, and I'm telling you, this was fun. This was really fun. I went to the back of the line and I grabbed the elders and I'd be like, come with me. And I'd stick them up in the front, in front of the other people. And, everybody was gracious about it and understood the concept and everything. Sometimes we have to remind one another that we do have elders or women with babies or young children. They need to go first. So I kind of went off on a tangent here, but I'm trying to give an example of ways in which we can help others and elders. And just think, what about when you're the elder and maybe you're on a walker or you're in great pain? Wouldn't it be great if some young person brought you to the front of the line or brought you some food or, offered to whatever, carry your groceries to the car, things like that? I mean, they're all lovely things that we can do for others. And not only are we doing it for the elders, but we are modeling for the younger people of how to go forward. Wendy and I had a conversation, I don't know, it was maybe a year ago, it doesn't matter. And do you remember you said something about somebody had offered to help you or something, and you were like, I could do it or something. Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, and I was like, well, part of that is it's kind of your responsibility as a person getting up there to accept that help.
That's one of the hardest things for me to do. I'm getting better at it, but yeah. I know. White hair, that signals to people right away, you're old. And there's very few people though that are like that though, that are willing to help,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's hard to accept it and allow it. And even if you can do it yourself, by allowing the gesture, you're like spreading the energy, spreading the word of accepting that. So that's kind of our kind of job as we age is to nurture that.
True.
And if that means we have to be the one that gets help, well, I know I was at the grocery store and I was going out to my car and some guy comes up, he's like, can I help you take your groceries? And I'm like, why would you? I'm like, I was so like befuddled, like what, why? What?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a cast on, I don't have a cane. I'm like, what? Why are they asking me this? But yeah, it is a little different.
It's hard to accept that there's limitations sometimes, because we still feel like, on some level, we're still that young punk that you could, do anything, and that's not always the case. It's like my brother-in-law. Oh no, not even him. I'll talk about somebody else. One of my very dear friends just went and took her driver's license test and didn't pass. She's going to be 90 tomorrow. And so, she's very accepting of it. I don't know how that's going to be next year, when she has to, but when she can't go where she wants to go, like, but as of this moment, she's like, maybe it's a good thing that they won't let me drive anymore. And I'll just have to, take public transportation or, whatever to get places. I hope she doesn't become a shut-in because she's too far away from me to go be her driver. But yeah, so but that's another limitation, where it's just like you get a little stripped of your freedom,
Yes. And because we don't live in small communities anymore, for the most part, who of her neighbors are going to be bringing her meals or,
Mhm.
doing things for her. There was a time that that would be done. There was also a time when you became an elder and you were and you felt that you were a burden, you would go out into the wild and be dinner. And up north, they would go out on the ice, and I'm sure that's the reason polar bears are really the only bear that like kind of prefers or like considers humans part of their menu.
Mm,
Other bears, they're kind of up and yeah, if they're hungry and they're there, yeah, maybe, but it's not like their main menu thing.
right.
But polar bears, that's the way it's been. They don't just come
Mhm.
along. Oh, there's somebody waiting for me. Getting dinner. you know, um, and hopefully the person froze to death first. But
Right. Oh, God.
and I am not advocating that. I am not saying go sit out on the ice somewhere and don't go out into the wild and
No. No, no, no.
but that showed respect for everyone else, right? When it was a life or death situation, that if somebody's a burden to other people, that's different. We're not like that now,
No.
right? That's not our situation anymore.
Mhm.
So, but that's part of aging gracefully, like recognizing when you are a burden to whatever degree, and then monitoring yourself, like, what things do I really need help with? And what things am I just being a cranky old bat about?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, um, and speaking of cranky, ideally, you're gonna be over that hump by now.
Mhm.
You've done the work, you've had the introspection, you've gained the understandings, and maybe you're not such a snotty person anymore, or
Yeah.
at least to a lesser degree. And if you are, you know, you might want to consider, like, do you want to be sliding out of here like that? Like, do you want to be going home a nasty person, be bitter, um, frustrated, whatever, you know? And I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, but you might want to work on yourself. If you haven't done it, work on yourself, and don't go blaming anything. Don't be like, well, I was a refugee, or I was in the war, or I was raped, or I lost my job, or I blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a long list. We've all had things happen to us, and I'm not downplaying your trauma, but it's not a suit of armor that you're supposed to be wearing. You're supposed to have the experience and move on. So look at that. Like, maybe why are you grumpy? And I had another thought come in, and it went out again. Okay. I don't know if that's aging gracefully. That might be
A
fumbling along the aging path, but
little bit of that.
yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, there's times when I'm often like, I am not a nice person. Like, I'll have some reaction or have some thought or whatever, and I'm like, I am not very nice. But I'm not beating myself up about it. I'm just recognizing that, you know, maybe I could have a better thought about something.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better way to respond, or in my little brain think about, why am I reacting that way?
Yeah. I've been
So
going through that a lot myself lately, you know.
yeah.
I think that one of the number one things that we have to learn to do, um, is to be kind to ourselves. I think that, when in all of the work that we do and, people do, they're always worried about how they're treating others. But I think that where the journey really needs to begin is being kind to yourself. And I think once that you get really good there, then it'll just be a little bit more automatic for everybody else.
Mhm.
And also, I think that you're a lovely person. I think that maybe there might be some choices that you make that aren't the greatest, but I think it's the choice that's not great, not you.
That should be everybody's motto,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. And that's like I don't know if I've shared that on here before, but, like, when my husband and I, when he's acting up, like, only he's able to, like,
I wish I could say I didn't know what you were talking about.
and, I'm like, "Okay, it's not him. That is not him, because I know the true him, right? I know who he
Right.
is.
Yeah, he's lovely.
That's not him. That is his trauma talking, and I'm just gonna walk away because I don't wanna engage with that.
Right.
I wanna engage with the person, the being that I know him to be, and since he's not available at the moment, I'm just gonna go do something else."
Right.
So, yeah, we have to remember to give everyone a break.
Right.
And yes, you're right, giving ourselves a break is the hardest,
Mhm.
but it leads to so much other, because part of when we're, what do you call it, judging others, or we're like labeling others, or we're disparaging others, there's a part of that that is really you talking about yourself.
Yes.
So the more you clean up yourself, the less you're going to have even to negative to think about others, because
Right.
you've already recognized and um, accepted your own faults.
Exactly. Give makes you more gracious about other people, you know? And even, it's like, and going back to our subject here, it's like, I think that even works for, like a younger person being annoyed with an older person. It's like it's somewhere along the line, we went from revering our elders to not wanting to have anything to do with them and being annoyed by them because they were slower, or they repeated themselves. Oh my gosh, I have heard that 5 times today.
Yeah.
And so instead of being a little bit more compassionate about that, we get annoyed by it.
Mhm.
And I think that what you were just saying about being able to be gracious to yourself leads to being able to be gracious to others a little bit more.
Mhm. Which is the perfect segue into something that I wanted to share. Um, I have somehow always been pretty patient with older people. I remember I had pneumonia one time. I was like 15 days in the hospital. Crazy. And when I first got there was a woman in the same room with me, and she was old. I don't know how old, but she was old, old. And I was like, I had nothing. I had nothing. I was really, really sick. And and there was a curtain between us, and the nurses came in, and and the woman is talking to them, but because she's so old, like her vocal cords are not really working or something, or they get kind of tight, and they don't talk very well, and the nurses are just not understanding her at all. And I'm like laying there, oh, and but I could understand her for some reason. And so I'm like calling up. She says she wants some water. I mean, I don't remember what it was, but I was like interpreting for her. So, and I always loved my grandmothers. I love their stories of what life had been for them, and in the world, and it's fascinating, and learning things from them. And my parents start aging, and I'm being pretty patient with them too. And I'm like, oh, yeah, not doing too bad. But lately, I've been kind of short. Maybe not obviously short. Yeah, maybe I have been even obvious about it, but I try and mask it with my mother, especially. Not my father, for some reason. Well, they're in different conditions. And I'm like, what the heck, Karen? What's going on here? I mean, I'm maybe somewhat shame, but more like wonder, like where is this coming from? And I realize that this woman is not the woman that I've known all my life. She's weak. needy and unable to do many things, um, and doesn't have a big social circle. It has a very tiny social circle. So she she calls me a lot, and I'm like, I I don't know where to put it. Like, I don't know where to put this woman who is not the independent, strong, powerful woman, and not powerful in a this woman that I know has been kind of taken over by this other person, and I haven't yet. I'm working on putting that somewhere where I can accept it.
Yeah.
And, did was that like that for you at all? Or
No, my parents didn't get to be very old. They're both gone. And so, no. Well, and my dad, when he was very, very ill, he lived in Florida, and he and his wife never called. And we didn't go down there and visit very much because I had little kids. You know, we went down there a couple of times, but he had his foot amputated, was paralyzed on the right side of his body, and had aphasia, so he couldn't speak.
oh,
So, there was just there, at that by that point in time, and he lingered like that for a long time. Um, so, I never really got to see the decline in him. It was just like, I'm here and now I'm gone, you know? And so it was it was very weird. Even though he was here, he was gone,
mhm,
is what I mean. So,
mhm,
and then
mhm.
my mom was, well, she was sick, only she wasn't telling anybody. Um, but very short time also. And then again, I talked to her on Friday night, and by Sunday morning she was dead. Friday night she was vibrant, vivacious. So
Wow.
same thing. I didn't have to go through the decline with my
Mhm.
parents.
Yeah. This last visit when I this is why we missed the last 2 weeks because I was with her. Um, she had a reaction, turned out to be a reaction to the drugs that they gave her after the surgery, and she was a mess. And I'm like, and she, anyway, I'm like, we got to get you into bed because you're gonna fall. If you fall on the floor or something, I can't help you. I mean, what am I going to drag her? I don't want to drag her. So we got her into bed, and then so she's laying there, and just like exhausted, of course, just from getting that far. And I helped her get undressed and everything, and put her pajamas on and whatever she needed, and then she was just kind of laying there trying to get up enough energy to get even into position that she was comfortable, and she was just like had nothing left. And I'm sitting in the chair observing her, and I'm like, and I see her like skinny legs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my mother. But it's like she really is on her journey. She really is headed out the door. I mean, who knows when? Could be tomorrow. It could be 5 years from now.
Mhm.
But it's just a whole different. I mean, imagine you seeing your father with not being able to speak and everything. I mean, that's just, there again. I mean, what do you do with that?
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful because he was also right-handed, so he couldn't write anything, you know? So we could have like sort of conversations, but mostly I just talked to my stepmother. She would tell me things that were going on and things that had happened, and she'd send pictures to me all the time, but it was just it was kind of funny in a way, frustrating for him, but funny all these years later, that what I heard from him what I heard him say most often during that time was, "Oh shit," because you know, I can't imagine being trapped in your body that way because he could think, you know, but he just couldn't communicate. He had no way to communicate.
Ugh.
I just like to be locked in your body that way. It had to be awful for him.
Mhm.
Not that he talked a lot before that, but you know,
But if he wanted to, he
but
could.
right, right.
Aw.
So yeah, so it was frustrating being so far away, but they did not want to come up here, and my family, my husband was working with his dad, and there was just no way
Mhm.
we could move down there. So anyway, I have a question. Can we
Okay.
wait a little bit? Is it possible that some of our aging happens because of our own beliefs? Like you were saying, um, when when you hit 40, this happens, and when you hit 50, this happens. Do you think that for some people that happens because they expect it to, so they kind of create that in themselves?
I definitely do. And even, for example, uh, my mother again, when she went through menopause, let's just say I felt really sorry for her second husband. And I decided, nope, I am not doing that. I just, I'm not going to do that. And so when it came time for me to go through menopause, I didn't have any of those symptoms. I never had a hot flash. None of that stuff that people talk about. And um, I did take spirulina, so I'm sure that helped. But again, I mean, I just made the decision. And over the years, I've had many health things, and I don't ever like give it a name. I don't. I know what other people would call it, but I don't. I don't talk about it. I don't. I just find a way to fix it and move on. I don't move in, and that's not who I am. I am not this person. I am not that. I am this. Maybe something is going on,
Hmm.
but I don't move in there, and I don't own it. Like I don't um and I back to my husband, like he'll say, about his issues or whatever, and I'll be like, quit saying that. Quit using those words. Like your body hears you. And if you say, I have this or this is going to happen or whatever, your body is going to comply. Don't just quit talking like that.
Hmm.
It's just so yeah, I think that aging, that part of that is like because your essence comes through. If you are a vibrant person inside, that comes through on the outside. If you're closed in and tight and angry and hurt, that shows. It shows. And of course, things like, smoking, holy cow, that really ages you. So there are factors that contribute to that. But then, you'll see somebody who smoked, for decades and they're up there in age and they don't have all that smoking, the smoking for example, this, smoking specifically, like they get the wrinkle on their, those lines here on their
Yeah.
mouth, and certain things. Like they don't have that. Like, how did you get away with that? So, that whole mind over matter has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And keep yourself active and don't be like, well, I'm this age, so I can't do that anymore. Why? If you want to do it and you can do it, do it. Use it or lose it.
Right. Right.
And don't be crazy. You know, maybe you don't want to be like climb Mount Everest or something, but I mean, if you can, go ahead. But if you're not able to do it, don't do it. You know.
Right. Yeah. I think that exercise is really, really important. And I think that that is something I'd like, it's like if well, when I worked at the high school, one time one of the kids was doing a project and they came and she asked me, What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self? And I just, the first thing that popped in my head is use moisturizer all the time, even if you don't think that you would need it, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And now, 20 some years later, I think my answer would be don't ever stop exercising,
Mhm.
keep yourself flexible. Also use moisturizer, but but don't give up that mobility,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
It's harder to achieve that now than it was 30 years ago.
Mhm. That is very true. I mean, staying active
Yeah.
and, doing stuff. Um, I don't necessarily work out, but I'm active, you know? I'm
Mhm.
always, doing something. Although sitting is not a good idea. But I'm always trying to, like, and I'll go up and down the stairs if multiple times if I have to or whatever. Like, I don't ever wanna get into the head where, like, I don't want, like, stairs to be something that I don't wanna do, right?
Right.
Because there's people that are like, "Oh, I don't wanna do the stairs." I don't wanna be that, and so I don't do that. I'm gonna do the stairs, and I'll do it more than I have to. I mean, sometimes they're like, "Oh, don't go all the way down there, blah, blah." No, go. Just go and get whatever. Because 'cause I'm one of those people that tries to, like, coordinate, be organized, like, "Okay, when I go to this, I'm gonna do this, this, and this," and
Mhm.
then that instead of, like, back and forth and back and forth, I kinda logistics, like, I logistically plan my day. If I'm running errands, I plan it out, but I still do it. Uh, and again, they keep showing me, like, them walking along with us. The like, that we're walking along and we're seeing ourselves as aging. We're seeing, "Okay, I'm 70, I'm 75, I'm 80, we see ourselves as aging, and they see us as growing. Like, they don't see us as aging. It's
That's great.
it's
It's both,
Mhm.
because I think that, because we are humans on this planet and we're in this bag of bones that, we're going to age physically, but I think we're growing here and here, you
Yeah.
know, and that's the important part. That's the most important part is how much can you grow? How much,
Yeah.
it goes back to what you were talking earlier about wisdom,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
gaining the wisdom and sharing it.
Mhm. And every step you take, every thought you have, everything is leading you home.
Right.
Everything that you do is always leading you home. And so that it should be joyful.
Mhm.
It's what you're one step closer. What so birthdays, okay, you're okay, got one less birthday. I'm gonna be that much closer. And like now I'm thinking, okay, so I'm like 2/3 of the way, roughly. Um, and then well, that's a whole nother topic. But um at the same time, like, if I go tomorrow, I'm fine. I'm good with it. But I also know that that's probably not gonna happen. Um, and so I'm living today and I'm looking forward, but I want to constantly be growing. And if my body's doing whatever it's doing, I'm doing the best to maintain it because I want to have a good quality of life. But it's always everything is about going home. So again, when we're talking about aging gracefully, then you know I guess the goal would be then to be thinking about where you're going and, like, how do you wanna get there? Like, how do you wanna arrive at home plate? Do you
Mhm.
wanna be, of a good mind and solid and happy? You wanna be all full of anger? You wanna be, it's work, but you are going home whether you like it or not, and Um, and I think there has to be we have to find a way to be grateful about it. Um, you hear this comment so much, and I'm always like puzzled by it. And people say, well, at least I'm still alive. And I'm thinking, okay, of your choices between being alive here and being alive there, which is the better choice? Why are you like, no, you didn't get the better choice. I did have I was at some group thing, and this guy gave this example. He's like, I don't understand. There's these two young girls. They had been in a car accident or something, and one had walked on, and the other one was still here. And he was upset. He's like, why did the one girl get to continue to be here, and the other one died? And I'm like, why was she punished or whatever? Like, he felt like it was a punishment, or, it was a bad thing. And I'm like, why are you assuming that it was a bad thing? Why she was done being here and now she gets to be home.
Well, that's because we're taught to be afraid of death. I mean, there's very few people. I mean, you're kind of in a minority that sees death as the way that you're saying it. I think that's changed in my lifetime, where the minority isn't quite so small, but most people are just scared to death to die, and they just, they are. And I think, there was a relative of mine, very, very sick for a long time. And I believe with my whole heart, although this was never communicated to me in any way, but that he had not been a very, how he would term to be a good person. Like, he was definitely not a good Catholic, and in some ways, very Catholic, but he couldn't really live by the rules. So in his mind, he was this really bad sinner, and I think he was just scared to death to die because he thought he was gonna, go to the hot place. But he didn't understand that, okay, so maybe, he might have have to go to school, or however you want to look at what they got to do up there for, for learning. But where he was afraid to go, I don't believe it exists. So, I have a feeling that when he got there, he was welcomed with open arms, and he was probably like, oh, thank God,
Yeah, but also here's another thing. Did you ever read? I'm sure I've told you about this, Wendy. But did you ever read Sergeant? Oh, the name escapes me.
I definitely never read anything that began with sergeant. So try to think of the name.
Sergeant or corporal or captain or soldier, private doubting. Private doubting. It's only like 26 pages. You can get it online. You can read it. Even I can read 26 pages online.
Yeah.
Because I like books. I like to have the book in my hand. But anyway. So he was from the United States. He went to Europe for World War I and died there. And within pretty quickly, he started showing up at a doctor's office back in the United States. So this doctor, whatever, he'd be up late, going through his notes and studying and everything. And this being would show up, and they would start having these conversations. And it's really interesting. There's a lot of information in those 26 pages, especially if you meditated on it a little bit. But one of the things was he shared, and he would come and he would tell the doctor what had happened since the last time he was there. So it was the process. And he shared that when he first got there, when he first passed, he didn't realize that he had died, because I think it was a bomb or something went so quick. And it was dark. He was all by himself. There was nothing around him anywhere. And eventually, his brother shows up. And I don't remember how his brother died, maybe in the war too, I don't know. And he's like, he says to his brother, you know, and his brother's showing him different things and explaining things and this and that. And he's like, I'm so glad that you're here. But why did you wait so long to come? And his brother's like, I've been here all along. You just didn't see me. So it has to do with your perspective, your understanding. And so this is another reason why it is so very important that we understand where we're going and what is happening and what the process is, and that who we truly are, right? Our whole thing for Whispers of the Soul is to help people to understand who we are, where we're going, what we're doing. We are eternal beings having an experience in this world for whatever reason, which, you know, it's different for everybody. And although the basket is for growth. So if you're in fear and this misunderstanding and this and that, then when you arrive there, you know, based on who you are here and what your understanding here is here, that it does affect how it's going to be. We did a paranormal investigation somewhere, and there was I ran across the maintenance guy in the bathroom, and he didn't want to come out because he had spied on the girls in the bathroom somehow. Anyway, and so he didn't want to move on because in his mind, he was going to get in big trouble. And so we shared with him what would happen, and he went on his way. And, you know, you see, anyway, everybody has a different, people always ask me, why to go stay here? Well, everyone that I've run into, they all had a different story. Anyways, so the building was an old school. And so then I see this man, and, you know, and he's got the tweed jacket with the leather elbows and the whole thing. And his energy was so lovely. And I'm thinking, and I felt like he must have been like the principal or something, which he did say he was. I'm like, why would, you know, you can tell he's a good person. Why would he be here? So he shows me that he had a wife, and he was walking down the street, and he looked in a window, and maybe this is just how he saw it, but how he showed it to me. And there's his wife at a table having dinner with another man in his home. And so his wife had cheated on him. And in his upbringing and his belief, he's married to her for eternity. So he doesn't want to go there because he doesn't want to be with her.
Oh.
He does not want to be stuck with her for eternity. So he's like, I'm just going to stay here. And my grandmother, my German grandmother, happened to, you know, she'd already passed, but she likes to come and do stuff with me. So she showed up, and so she talked to him, and she explained to him how it really was, and that he didn't have to worry about it and that whatever. So he's like, oh, cool. Off he goes. You know, so I'm just sharing those stories because it is important that you have some kind of rational understanding of what it's like. You know, whatever you're hearing, if that brings you fear, then you maybe need to do some more study and some more understanding, because Creator is all loving, and anything that he does, anything that happens to us, even though it might feel like it's a bad thing, it's only for our growth and our learning and our understanding and our expansion. You could be stubborn about it and not learn the lesson, and then you'll just get a tougher one later. But it's always for our growth. And so whatever might happen, it's still for your growth and in love. It's always in love. again, if you've got fear around it, you might want to explore a little bit more about it so that you don't, doesn't mean that's going to be your path, that that's going to happen, but you want to be in the best place that you can for when you arrive so that you make good choices, right? What did you say about the choices before?
Yeah, right.
Make some good choices. And yeah, I have so many stories, but we're out of time. Okay. So aging gracefully, that involves your body, that involves your soul, that involves your attitude, it involves your behaviors with yourself and others. Basically, I mean, the whole being a good person thing, and taking into account that the world is changing for you, that your life is changing, and it is part of your journey towards going back home. And so having acceptance of that and gratitude for that and appreciation for the fact that you do get to go home. Maybe you don't get to go home tomorrow, but that you are moving towards that. What other way would you want to traverse the last part of your life? You know? So, okay. Any other questions or
No, we're
okay.
good.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll do our
Oh, wait. I forgot something. I gotta channel my inner Shelley. What is the one thing they'd like us to take away from this?
I think it's what I just let me see. Yeah. You're going home.
All right. Okay.
Embrace it. You're going home. It's a beautiful thing. It's not something to fear. It's not something to be angry about and frustrated about. Be gracious, like Wendy said. Be gracious with yourself and others and the situation and creator and everything else that comes across your path. Be gracious. Be wise.
Beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And they're with you. Like they're with you. Like I can it's the light and them walking, like it's beautiful. If you could, if I don't even know how to share that, the vision of it, but it's beautiful. All right, we'll do our healing. Get comfortable, relax, receive what you receive, allow, stay in it as long as you like, and I'll see you next time. Let me say my prayer. We are all walking one another home. Every interaction you have with, whether it's with a tree or a being, human or spirit, yourself, your experiences, everything is about walking one another home.